It's another chance for us on Saturday to go 1-0. We take each game at a time. We come back and practice and prepare. So Saturday is a chance for us to go 1-0.
What did you see as the biggest issues this last game, or maybe even the last two games?
I think the last two games, we're just not playing like ourselves right now. We're better than what we've shown, and like I said, one game at a time. I think we dwelled on the last game a little bit, which led over into the Kansas State game. But each week, we got a chance to go 1-0. So I think, we're just looking forward to Saturday to play some more basketball.
The buckets that you had last night, yeah, I guess it was last night, mostly from mid-range. I mean, when the three is not falling, is that what you need to do is, get a little closer or something?
I just need to see the ball go in the hole, different ways. I can score at almost any level. I'm not just a three-point shooter, and I'm at my best when I'm playing downhill, and I felt like last night, the mid-range game was falling for me, so that's what I needed to shoot.
What do y'all kind of remember about that game in Ames that you can kind of take into this one and maybe, build on?
Well, we played with a different type of energy. We played defense as a team. We shared the ball. We just looked like a completely different team. We played like it was a fun team to watch. It was a fun game to be in. We fed off their crowd's energy. I think sometimes we do play better on the road because we know we do have to play 15 points better or whatever on the road. So I think, we just get back to having fun and just playing basketball.
When this team's been at its best defensively, what are some of the things that stand out to you that are signs of that?
We don't really leave nobody out on an island by themselves to guard. We guard everybody as a whole. And I think right now, we're kind of like, hey, I'm going to make sure my man doesn't score. But we need to be in the gap and support each other. We need to play team defense because that's when we're at our best.
What was the message in the locker room last night, whether that was from coach or the players after that loss?
Hey, Saturday is another chance for us to go 1-0. The season's not over. We have a lot more basketball to play. We still have the tournament, and then we have the tournament after the Big 12 tournament. If we play our best basketball in March, I'm fine with that. It's just about, moving ahead and not dwelling on that and being ready for Saturday.
In the moment, though, it sucks. I mean, you don't want to lose. You come in here every time with the same, energy into this room. How do y'all, I guess, kind of get that sort of vibe as a team?
Because, I think we'd be lying if we said we were perfect. Everybody's not perfect. We know what we do day in and day out. Nobody's sitting in there drawing up X's and O's with us, with our coaches, and we know what we do in practice. And as long as we believe in each other, we don't really need nobody else to say, hey, they can do this or that. We got each other, and we're willing to fight for each other. That's all that matters.
Bryce kind of alluded to it, but just the energy and how, as a leader, have you grown to be able to help some of the younger players? The season as it builds, it's more strenuous on your body. You've got people in and out, just different lineups, people on the court. But just as an overall leader, how do you think you've grown to kind of fill that energy hole?
I think I've grown, in a lot of ways because I always think, it's easy to lead when you're winning. But now how are you going to lead when you're losing? It's time to step up and be like, hey, let's move on to the next game. We didn't play our best basketball. It's about being honest, and it's not about the loss, but it's about how do you come back and how do you grow. It's like, what are we going to do on Saturday to make us better going into, the next game? And how do we just get better each and every day to build on going into the tournament?
That sounds like life, man. I mean, is that sort of it? I mean, you just kind of have to dust yourself off and keep going?
I mean, we got a lot more basketball. We still have, 3 or 4 games before the Big 12 tournament even starts. Then, everybody basically is 0-0 when we get to the tournament. So now everybody got a clean slate. Then after that, everybody's 0-0 again. You have a chance to advance after that. So it's a new life to me to basketball. New opportunities. Let's play.
I know you just played one, so I don't know how much you've even looked at Iowa State other than the last time. Is there anything specific or a player that y'all focus on when you play them?
You have to give respect to them that they can shoot the three. Everybody on their team pretty much can score. Ashley Jones is special. Emily Ryan, Denarcy, they got so many people that can go. But I think at the end of the day, it's about us being us and, not trying to do anything that we don't normally do. Playing Baylor basketball is what we need to do.
Sarah, y'all faced a pretty hostile environment there. Are you maybe challenging the fan base to kind of maybe
help lift y'all up here?
Oh, yeah, we always need our fans to come out, It's going to be a fun game, the Play for K game. We need everybody to come out and support us, We're still in it, we're still fighting, and we need them behind us.
On the outside, people see you've lost 3 straight, and they can make assumptions about what's going on in this building. But how would you describe, the tone right now, the atmosphere, and what's going on in here?
As you can see, I haven't lost my momentum, my feeling about the game. Basketball is fun. It's about a game of runs, and you can lose 3 this week and go win 3 next week. So I think it's about how do you move on, and I think most of all, it's how do we respond on Saturday knowing that all the odds are against us.
You did respond. There's that stretch there in January where I think dropped 3 or 4 and then won 3 straight against some good teams. What are there any takeaways you have from that stretch when you got back on track then?
We've proven that we can play with anybody in the country. There's when we played Villanova, we've had top 25 matchups that we've came out and won. And our Big 12 is a great league that sets you up for March. So honestly, I think we're prepared. Like I said, it's just about us playing Baylor basketball at the end of the day.
Sarah.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, we talked again today. I actually met with our staff, met with Sarah and Jaden, Kate and Jamie, who are our veterans and returnees, and talked to them about, it's 10 days ago we went on the road and won in Ames, and it's their only loss of the season. And, 8 days ago, we led OU for 39 and a half minutes, and so, maybe we're not quite as good all the time as the team that was in Ames, and we're certainly not the team that we've been the last 2 games. But I just don't think we've had a ton of energy the last 2 games, and so it's catching up with us. We have to execute at a high level. I had 9 people dressed at Kansas State, and we played all 9. And so, we didn't make shots, and we had untimely turnovers, and Kansas State made shots, and they've struggled to shoot it in conference play. They're shooting 28% in conference play from 3 as a team. And so the fact that we gave them those first 2 kind of uncontested that didn't need to happen, I think that built their confidence up early. And, they were the aggressor. Then we did the 2 things against them that we said we couldn't do. We couldn't give up 3s, and we couldn't put them on the foul line, and they did both of those things. And so, we just have to be better.
You mentioned, giving them uncontested 3s. Obviously, shooting comes and goes, but defense, you can kind of, that usually is something more consistent. What have been the defensive breakdowns that you've seen?
We haven't had great pressure. Jaden really sets the tempo of our D, and when she picks up early and pressures, that's a big help. It's kind of head of the snake mentality. I just feel like she sets our defensive energy. I think we've had tired off ball, late rotations, no rotation, and it's not the same person all the time. But when we're dialed in, we're really good defensively. But we're not going to overpower anyone physically. We're not going to overpower anyone length and size-wise. So it's about being really tuned into the game plan, who we're guarding, why we're guarding them a particular way, where the help's coming from, who can shoot it, who's the driver. We made some bad decisions on players. We didn't show enough help. We didn't play out of help well enough. And so, but it's so easy to have energy after a win, and it's amazing how your mental state affects your physical state. You're always way more tired, when you're in the middle of a losing streak than a winning streak. And you have to remind them, hey, we played 9 players. Kansas State played 7. That they didn't have more tired legs than we had. We're ready to play Iowa State. They play 6 or 7 players, you know? And so, and not every team like that. OU plays a lot more players, but the majority of the teams around the country are banged up right now. They're dealing with aches and pains and tired legs, and you know, it's a long season. And so, what is your mind telling your body? And I think that's where we're at right now. It's like you think of a year ago, and we were just as beat down, and we had fewer players, but we were probably playing our best basketball a year ago at this time, and we had built up to that. You know, we had really just kind of got better and better at what we did. And we've just been obviously a little bit more inconsistent in terms of the ebbs and flows. But I don't think we're that different than the team that beat Iowa State 10 days ago. We just have to have that mentality that we know that when we're dialed in and we do what we're supposed to do, that we're capable of beating them or anybody else.
Vicky, I guess, how has this been on you? Like, how do you don't like losing, so how do you handle this kind of stretch?
Well, I wrote practice at 4 a.m. Last night. Just kind of watch the game, take a lot of notes. You try to think outside the box a little bit. You know, the hardest thing as a coach, I mean, obviously losing is hard. I mean, nobody wants to lose. But the way my brain works, it's never to, you vent a little bit, but it's rarely about, you know, I was on the phone with Michael till 2 a.m. last night, my ops person, just about rearranging the schedule today and what we could do that way. It's, you know, how do you reset them? How do you get them to believe that they're the team you think they're capable of being? And I think that's the part of me that never stops. I don't know how to shut it down. Like, you know, I know that people need to get away sometimes, and I just don't function that way. Like, I'm not going to go to sleep if I haven't watched the game, if I don't have a plan for what I'm going to do the next day to give us a chance, you know, to win the game. And so you try to think creatively. You know, maybe it's the engineer in me, but I'm trying to problem solve all the time. Like, what are our mistakes? Why are we making them? How do we change that? You know, I showed them one clip today, one clip offensively based on the game. That's all I showed them. But to me, it was like it told the story of the game, you know, and this idea of explaining, like, why we do the build-up drills that we do in practice and why it matters for the game, you know, that when you get to, like, this point in the season where you're playing teams a second time and everyone knows, like, what did you do well the last time? You know, then they have to tweak things. And, you know, I don't know if I said it exactly like this, but I know people ask me about Kansas State and what adjustments, and I know Derek did going into the radio, and I said, well, my guess is if they play us zone, you know, they're going to try to take Caitlin away in the high post. I said, but they're probably going to play man, and they're going to switch and change up their defense. And they're going to recognize that in the first game, we had Jamie guard Gabby Gregory, and that's a physical mismatch. So they're going to try to pound it in the post more. Like, they did exactly what I told Derek they were going to do. Like, I mean, and because it's what I would do if I were them. You know, I mean, I wouldn't play a zone again. We had 28 assists on 29 baskets. And so we worked on man against switching and man against cupping. Like, that's what we spent the bulk of our time working on, because while you're guessing, you're making educated guesses. And so, you know, we just have to do a better job adjusting. Like, Bill's going to adjust. He's going to see what we did well against them, where they exploited us. They're going to, you know, find ways to attack our freshmen again. You know, with Jones, they're, you know, I mean, they didn't guard Bugs unless she was 2 feet from the basket the first game. They didn't pick Jaden up until she was 15 feet from the basket. Like, they're by far the most scout-heavy team in our league. Like, they'll play a zone that looks like man and man that looks like zone, and but they play personnel really, really well. And so while you don't expect drastic changes because it was a close game, you know, this isn't Bill's first rodeo. Like, so, you know, this idea of, we can't always rely on doing the same things. We've got to be just a little bit better, every time out.
Heard you talk a little bit with Derek on the radio after the game last night about Caitlin and just being smart sometimes on the help side and things like that. I mean, she's such a magnet for contact.
Yeah.
Is in a game like that where maybe they're calling a little tighter, does she have to be a little bit smarter, or I don't?
A lot smarter. Yeah. I mean, and that's not something I haven't told her. I mean, one of the things I talked to that group about today is we don't need any of them to suddenly be a superhero. When we beat Villanova, when we beat Iowa State and Kansas and OU on the road, Sarah had a big game, but we don't need any of them to be a superhero. We need their best, and that's something different for each player. For Caitlin, it's being on the floor. It's not about how much she scores. It's about actually her being on the floor. And so that doesn't mean that she's not going to be Caitlin. But I felt like she was begging for a foul on Sundell early in the third. She cut her off to the baseline, and there was physical contact, and it was a no call, and then she spun, and, she tried, and it's that whole idea of there's a time and a place when there's contact to fall, and there's a time and place where there's contact, and you just hold your contact. And I think that's here she is, a fifth-year senior, so I'm talking about growth opportunities, and we don't have a whole lot of time left. But, it's hard for players. All those players have a different role than they did a year ago. This is Caitlin's first year starting. This is Jaden's first year starting. Sarah has to be more of a Batman, and Jamie has to handle the ball more, and not just be a spacer, and last year she could just play off Sarah and Jay Lou all the time. So all those guys have a different role. And they're all being asked to do more than they did a year ago. And, it's interesting because Shelby just sent me the most improved numbers that the league just put out. And those guys are in all of them, in different categories. Jaden in assists and scoring, and Caitlin in scoring, and Sarah in scoring, because they're all asked to play. They're all playing bigger roles. And they're not perfect at it, but the idea is when Jaden creates defensive energy, we're a lot better. When Sarah plays downhill and doesn't just shoot threes, she's really hard to guard. When Jamie moves and doesn't stand and gets to the drift and moves on dribble penetration and attacks closeouts, she can be really, really good. And when Caitlin's on the floor, that's all I need. I just need her to be on the floor, because then I know she'll do whatever the team needs. If it's score, she'll score. If it's rebound, it's rebound. If it's help, they're just, she's the Swiss Army knife. And so, that's what's important for us, is that, Bugs and Bella, they've been up and down all season, because that's what freshmen do. In terms of, and it's not just for you guys, you may be looking at, well, Bugs has been pretty consistent because she goes out and gets a double-double or a near double-double. But defensively, there is an ebb and a flow, and being where she's supposed to be and setting screens and knowing the plays, and they're freshmen, and Sarah wasn't relied on like they are as freshmen, and Caitlin wasn't relied on, and Jaden, when she was at UCLA, wasn't relied on. We do ask a lot of them, but what they're giving us, they've kind of given us all season. So it's the consistency of that veteran group that's the group that gives us opportunity to win.
You've talked about needing more energy, maybe needing more accountability with prep work and things like that. Are they getting it? Do you feel like they're bought in and they're getting it?
I think they're bought in, but they're also young people, and losing isn't easy, and especially when you're not used to it. And so, there's a difference, between like watching the scout and making sure they know their scout and their mind telling their body that they need to get full speed repetitions to be able to put it all together, And I think that's teams that are winning have more energy. Teams that are winning have better locker rooms. Like, I always talk about locker room culture. Locker room culture is always better, when you win. And I'm not saying that we have bad locker room culture. Our kids are getting along. But it's just the way it is, I mean, it's why in the recruiting process I tell every kid, like, it's about, like, do you have opportunity to play? Do you have opportunity to win? And do you like the people that you're going to play for and play with? Because we're going to sell the pavilion like crazy. But I don't know many kids that don't play that are happy with a fancy locker room and a weight room that overlooks the Brazos River. Like, that's just not, I mean, I went to Purdue and played in the Final Four and an Elite Eight, and my fondest memories are playing at Marquette because I was on the court. I was on the court when the game mattered. And we played in the old gym my first year. It seated 1,000 people and had no real bleachers. Like, it had risers that were brought in. And so, like, but those are the memories that matter to me. So I just think that, it's getting back to how do we beat Iowa State? We did it with energy. We did it with effort. We did it with ball pressure on Emily Ryan. We gave them one shot. We played downhill. Jamie had a great second half playing downhill. Like, it's about executing. It's about energy and execution. If we do those two things, we have a chance to win every game we're in. If we don't execute and we don't have energy, like, you may lose by 1, you may lose by 20. It just kind of depends on at what point that energy, I mean, we were right there. I don't feel great about how we played the first quarter against Kansas State, but it was a 3-point game. And then it was turnover, like, offensive rebound, and it's like that little run, and there's always one of them. And then do you have the gut check, mental ability to, like, say, we're not going to let 7 turn into 10, 7's going to turn into 4. And then 4 is going to turn into a one-possession game, and then we're right there. And so that's what we have to get back to.
What changes do you expect Bill to make? Like you said, it was that tight a game, so you wouldn't think either one of you would make wholesale changes.
No, I think they're going to try to do what they do a little bit better. They've tweaked a few plays since we played them. And I'm going to be fully honest, like, my approach was taking care of us. So I spent a lot of time watching our game and really understanding that some of what needs to happen is for us to be a better version of us, regardless of opponent, because they present some of the same game planning as Kansas State. They'll be 5 out a lot. I mean, obviously, Dew had a huge game against us the last time. I don't know if she scored that many points combined since our game. But they present that 5 out, multiple 3-point shooters. If they don't shoot threes, they're trying to get paint touches and score. They'll spin off you. They have more size than us at the guard. So from a game prep perspective, they're different than Kansas State, but it's there's some similarities. They're going to post up mismatches. So, I don't think they're going to make wholesale changes. I just think they're going to look at the number of times Bugs got behind them. They're going to talk about, our loop to pin down actions that hurt them late, and how they want to defend that. I think it's going to be more action-driven, than it is going to be personnel-driven, because I think they always do a great job with personnel. We've got to do a better job spacing when they use Jaden's defender to help on Sarah, is Jaden doing a good job spacing, you know? And it's Jaden's ability to understand it doesn't mean shoot it every time you're open because they're leaving you open for a reason. So it's kind of that balance of when to take the open shot and when to reattack and put paint pressure on because they're playing so far off of you. Like their man looked like a zone against us, and they just tried to always leave Emily Ryan and hand people off. And so they played man, but it was very switch heavy the first time.
Thanks, Steve.
Welcome.